Liberal calculus teacher tries to humiliate Barron Trump, and is shocked to discover he's a math genius. The room was full, but an intriguing silence hung in the air. It was another morning at the prestigious University of Brighton, and Professor Helena Carter's advanced calculus class would start shortly. The students already knew what to expect, an emphatic speech about how mathematics should give way to more urgent social issues. But that morning, something would be different. At the back of the room, a student who was always discreet and impeccably dressed observed everything carefully. "Your name?" "Barron Trump." For many, he was just an heir to fame, a surname surrounded by polarized opinions. But that day, without raising his voice, he would prove that intelligence and logical reasoning can speak louder than any title. And he would do it in the most unexpected way possible. Professor Helena began her talk by arguing that, in the modern world, exact sciences needed to give way to more relevant social discussions. The students looked at each other uncomfortably. It was then that Barron calmly raised his hand. The teacher hesitated before calling him. In a calm voice, he asked, "Teacher, don't you think that reducing the teaching of fundamental mathematical concepts could harm students, regardless of their social context?" Her question generated a buzz in the room, and the teacher's expression hardened. It was a valid question. In times where polarization dominates academic discussions, it is essential to balance human and technical development. Barron, with his calm and rational stance, brought up an essential point: science and society do not need to be rivals. On the contrary, they must work together to form individuals prepared for complex challenges. In response, Helena decided to challenge Barron. He took the marker and wrote a complex multivariable calculus problem on the board, something that even the most advanced students could not master. With a defiant smile, she said, "If you believe so much in the importance of mathematics, show us how to solve it." Silence took over the room. Some students began recording the scene on their cell phones. But Barron didn't hesitate. He stood up, walked to the board and analyzed the equation. "Interesting choice, Professor. There are several ways to solve it. Would you like me to follow the traditional approach, or would you prefer to see a more efficient solution based on Gauss's original studies?" It was like watching a master in action. The way Barron handled the challenge showed not only intelligence but also a confidence grounded in knowledge. This is rare, especially in an academic environment where many avoid direct intellectual confrontations with professors. His assurance was not arrogance, but the result of in-depth and genuine study. He began by explaining each term in the equation, demystifying what had previously seemed impossible to other students. Each marker line on the board was accompanied by a logical and structured explanation. "If we apply the Laplace transform here, we can simplify this part and eliminate redundant terms," he said as he drew each step with impressive precision. The teacher, who at first seemed sure of her provocation, now watched with a mixture of surprise and respect. With each new stage, students became more immersed. "That makes a lot more sense now," exclaimed one of them, before Barron had even finished. His method was not only correct, it was brilliant. Instead of simply solving the problem, he taught it, making complex concepts accessible. What started as a challenge to expose it turned into a real class, where learning became collective and spontaneous. In the end, Barron took a step back and looked at his solution, checking to see if he had made any mistakes. There wasn't. He calmly dropped the marker on the teacher's desk and, with a small smile, said, "Math, when taught correctly, is never a problem, it's always a solution." The silence that filled the room was not one of disbelief, but of reverence. For the first time in that class, everyone was actually learning. The shock on the teacher's face was visible. "Have you read Gauss's original works?" he asked incredulously. Barron just nodded and started writing. His solution flowed elegantly, and he explained each step in a didactic way. Instead of simply solving the problem, he taught it, making complex concepts accessible. The students, previously spectators, began to participate. "That makes a lot more sense now," exclaimed one of them. The room, once an ideological battlefield, transformed into a genuine learning environment. But the impact of that moment went further. The teacher, who began the debate with a superior tone, began to realize something disturbing. Perhaps she was wrong. His belief that mathematical concepts were merely accessories within a social debate crumbled in the face of irrefutable evidence that solid knowledge can unite, not divide. Barron didn't just overcome an academic challenge, he rescued the true spirit of the university, that of being a space where ideas are tested and improved, not imposed. The students noticed this change. The environment that was once full of ideological tension was transformed into a true learning laboratory. The breaking of this barrier has caused many to reconsider their own beliefs about higher education. After all, what is the true objective of education? Would it reinforce dogmas or empower individuals to think critically and independently? Barron gave the answer without having to say it directly. His calmness, his technical mastery and his ability to engage those around him created a profound impact. Respect was not imposed, was conquered. And that made even Professor Helena have to admit, I think I learned something important today. When Barron finished the solution, the room erupted in applause. Professor Carter, once so sure of her approach, realized that she had underestimated both the math and her student. In a rare gesture of humility, she acknowledged, I think I learned something important today. In the following weeks, the advanced calculus class became a space for collaborative learning, where politics and education stopped being adversaries and began to coexist in the search for knowledge. Barron continued to sit in the back of the room, helping colleagues and proving that true privilege is not in a name, but in the desire to learn and share knowledge. This story makes us reflect on the true role of academia. Should we really choose between science and social debate? Or does true progress happen when we can integrate both in a productive way? Barron Trump not only answered that question with words, but with actions, and in the process, he left a mark that will never be forgotten. In times of superficiality and empty debates, seeing someone capable of combining intellectual depth and humility is inspiring. Perhaps we should ask ourselves, are we prepared to value this kind of thinking, or are we still trapped in a bubble where the appearance of the argument matters more than its substance? If you liked this story and want to hear more inspiring stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, activate the bell to receive notifications whenever we publish a new video. Share your thoughts in the comments below, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, and keep seeking knowledge and inspiration.